Hey, when we started doing work with Bioptimizers, I knew it was going to be a great business relationship. I didn't really understand how much I was going to love chatting with one of the founders and how much great response we get every time we do this. I want to talk with Wade Lightheart about big mistakes, common mistakes he sees men under 40 making, because Wade and I have made a few. I also want to talk about everybody thinks they've got an idea for a business. How do you take it from idea to actually happening? And what are the sort of the 5 items for success? And Wade knows about this. Plus, you're going to talk with, and he heard me talk with a guy who has had now in his marriage his first child, which is such a blessing. Wade Lightheart joins us on The Todd Herman Show with the help of our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@The Todd Herman Show, and with the great blessings of God Almighty.
The Todd Herman Show is 100% disapproved by big pharma, technocrats, and tyrants everywhere. Now, from the high mountains of free America, here's the Emerald City exile, Todd Herman.
Today is the day the Lord has made, and these are the times in which God has decided we shall live. And look here, Wade Lightheart joins us. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome back.
I absolutely, when I see your name pop up on my calendar, I'm pumped and excited because you're the one guy that can match me in energy and enthusiasm. So I really like that. So let's get into it, fire up, and hopefully offer some value to your listeners.
Well, one of the reasons for that is because I just came back from my truck with P3OM and mass seams, but we'll talk about that later. This is one of the reasons I do have this energy. Your products really have just helped propel my life. But let me just pause. Forget the products, forget the business, forget the cast. Dude, you and your wife had a baby.
Yes.
So take us through what that was like for you.
Oh, man. Well, first off, I am the slowest pony in the race. Okay. I'm in my 50s now and had my first child. So that just tells you something right there.
Yeah.
So the good news about that is I have grandfather wisdom.
Yes.
And I still have 20-year-old energy. So that combination is certainly good for having a child. And of course, I've got a rock star partner who is taking on the responsibility, suspended some of her education stuff. She's taking a PhD program in psychophysiology. But she said, you know what? There's nothing more important than raising the next generation of children. And she's slowed down her education pursuits in order to devote her time and energy to full-time mothership. And while I'm here trying to make the circus go around. So that's an awesome exchange, kind of a traditional value situation. Even though she has all the options in the world, she actually prefers raising it. We were just talking about that last night. I said, so how is it so far? Because we'll be 8 weeks this Saturday.
Wow.
And she goes, I'm absolutely loving being a mom all over again. She had a couple kids in another relationship before me, and she's a rock star. So that really makes things a lot easier.
Yeah. What was it like for you? And you're not an advanced age, but what was it like for you to hold your child? And can we say the name and the sex, etc.?
Yep.
Yeah. What was it like for you?
Whew, well, first off, it's so funny because you have a plan, right? So I thought, I'm going in this. I've got this thing locked down.
Yeah.
So first, we're moving to Sedona, Arizona, which is a spiritual place that I've always wanted to live in. We got the house all set up. We got everything. The house turns out to be a disaster. Doesn't meet the restrictions. We have to move back to California after the first month. Our birthing team that we have there, we have all the doulas and then the masters in nursing. We got 3 of these expert ladies, like the Earth Mamas with this backgrounds and everything to raise kids. We're locked in. So the house screws up. That's fail number 1. So then we got to go back again to raise a child. We're doing a brain training. This is part of our metamorphosis training that we do, where we take people and, improve their IQs, EQs, functional capabilities. It's a really transformative process. We reverse aging in the process. So we're doing this. My wife is one of the facilitators in this. She's literally going to pop any day. So I'm like, please let us get through the training. And we did. We got through the training. Literally a week later, it's the on the full moon. She goes into labor that evening, and everything is smooth as silk. We're just like, she goes into labor around 10 or 11 o'clock. we talked, she's at 5 minutes contractions. They're like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Right. We got to bring her into the clinic right now because she's going to pop by the morning. I'm like, yes, everything's going to plan. We get in there, you know, and it's kind of the precept. Everything's smooth. The ladies are all excited. Everybody's pumped. 5 in the morning. 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, contractions going up. I'm watching my wife go through this extraordinary level of pain. You know, I like the UFC and I like guys that rise past the violence and beatings and stuff and come back and win. We've got nothing on ladies, man. That what I was witnessing her going through, I'm like, bow down. That's no, like I wouldn't do this, right? Like, anyways. It keeps going on. A thunder and lightning storm breaks out in Sedona in the middle of the desert at this time. Never happens. So it's thundering, it's lightning, it's raining, and the delay keeps happening. Basically, what happens is the child should be coming out. The birthing team, they're like, we don't know what's going on. Okay, we keep going, we keep going, we keep doing things like bring in a specialized chiropractor. We think the kid lined up improperly.
Wow.
We had to back it out of the canal, open up her, it's like, still not coming. This goes on, and my wife in murderous torture, handling it like a champ. And at the 24-hour mark, I notice a shift in the birthing team's faces. And I'm like, they're out of tricks. The anxiety comes up, and I go over to the head woman, and she goes, there's something wrong. And we might want to think about calling the emergency team.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. So I'm like, we're calling the emergency team.
Yeah.
So, you know, the ambulance comes over, the lights come on, it's raining, you know, we hunt her, we get her into the paramedics truck. They're like, you can't get in here. I can't ride with her. So I'm like, okay. I'm loading up all the stuff. I've got the cord blood stuff because I want to capture that stuff as well for, you know, future things. I got that kit. I got this. We got to drive to Cottonwood, 17 miles away. And as I'm driving into the blackness, you know, where I'm doing literally 90 miles an hour trying to follow this thing. And I just put the flashers on. I'm like, good luck stopping me. I'm not stopping for anybody. Forget it. Right.
Right. We
get to the emergency, you know, all of a sudden, you know, I'm right there behind the truck, pop out, we go to emergency. And I've always been an organic natural health guy. I'm really, I believe in the medical system for acute care only. That's it.
Yep.
And we get into the emergency room. We had this amazing doctor. He's looking at everything. She's like, well, she's kind of dilated on one side, but the other side's not happening. The kid's not coming out. And I literally watched the level of professionalism of this doctor. He wasn't trying to do, he wasn't like, just let's do a cesarean. He wanted to do a natural birth. He's like, I don't know what's going on here. I haven't seen this. This is problematic, right? And what was happening is her contractions, this was what happening at the birthing clinic, but as her contractions, which were not stoppable at this point, she'd get another wave, and then the vitals of the child would drop down to almost nothing. The contractions would stop coming. I said, he's obviously getting choked off here. He's wrapped up.
Yeah.
Now, normally a good doula can kind of navigate that situation, but for whatever reason, doctor couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure it out. I'm like, okay, we're going to surgery. Now, here is the preemptive thing that my wife and I discussed earlier. I said, well, if something goes wrong, we're going to have a series of questions. What's the order of sequence? And you know, to her case, she says, well, if it's between me and the kid, choose the kid.
Yeah.
Heavy, just so, you know, so that drive into the blackness.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, is my kid going to make it? Is she going to make it? And then I'm seeing these kind of parallel universes and the consequences of these decisions on a 90-mile-an-hour drive.
Yeah.
For those. So that was really an interesting. We get in there, the doctor makes it. I'm like, let's do this. Let's do the C-section. Up to the you know, emergency birthing clinic they go. I run back out to the car, I get the cord blood, and they got to come in, and I got to go through all the prep, you know, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want them doing anything to the kid or her. I get in there, they put the sheet down, they hit her with the epidural, they're giving her painkiller. She's like, you know, tweaking on the thing.
Yes.
Right. 12:06 a.m. They started the surgery. They had that child out at 12:09.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, these guys are
that's
gross.
so
I'm proud when I put together a Lego set. I'm playing with my 9-year-old nephew, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like we put together a spaceship today in 8 hours. They're pulling out a baby in 3 minutes and then sewing her back up. And when they brought the baby out, and the reason the problem was the cord was wrapped 3 times around the waist, once around the leg, once around the shoulder, and once around the neck. He was literally hung up. There was so he was coming out, but he couldn't come out.
Yeah.
When they brought the child over, she says, go to him. I was going to catch him originally. They bring so now we're in a room, bunch of people we don't know. It's everything that we didn't want, right? And then they brought the baby out, and he first let this roar out of him. It was not a cry. It was not like wham wham wham. This was like and he's just like blah 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 blah, whatever his baby talk was. I think it was either thanking or chastising the team.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what it was. We'll figure that out in years when he can talk. And I saw my son for the first time. And for those who don't know, I had a nefarious life prior to my spiritual unlocking of spiritual transgressions. I lived a very raucous, wild, party infested, drug infested, all kind of life, and then I rechanged everything. But what was interesting when I saw that kid, it was somewhere a combination between an acid trip, an MDM trip, and an ayahuasca journey, all in one shot simultaneously. There was emotional cycle, and I knew. Oh, it's kind of like that point where you're like, oh, yeah. I'm not stopping this train.
Yeah.
I've just crossed over the genetic threshold. I've carried on my genes into the future, which I think is something biologically important. But now I have the responsibility of raising this person so they can be a functional adult, and all the responsibilities and all the joy that comes with that. And I'll never forget that moment. I went over to him and got him, held him over, and then brought him over to my wife and everything. And it was totally awesome.
Yeah.
Turns out the hospital was great. They had amazing organic food at the hospital. Stayed there for a couple of days for observation.
I love that you're
the staff wasn't implementing all the things that I didn't want. They were just so cool and everything. So it was everything. Like, it just totally blew up my whole model of everything. And he came into the world. He was healthy. He's functional. He's happy. And because of that roar that came out of him, turns out part of my ancestry is German. And I had a great I had a grandfather that I never met. My mom's father died, and his name was Leonard. Now, Leonard comes from Lightheart in German, which is Lionheart or Leonardo in Italian and Spanish, or Leonidas in Greek. And I was like, that kid's Lionheart. So Leonard Lightheart is his name, and
I love it.
He's in the world, and he is I don't know where he got his genes from, but he's a big kid.
Imagine
a healthy kid. Yeah, and he's on math science and P through M right out of it. He put it in his mixture.
By the way,
because it really helps digestion.
People are going to think you're kidding, and you're not. People who raise their kids in healthy lifestyles, they do this, right?
Yes.
And of course he's on this. I was actually going to ask what Bioptimizer's products you started him on, because I knew you would do this.
Well, there's a big problem when it comes to, so the first thing is, this guy is like a milk monster. So he just drinks all this milk. So he was just draining mom dry. So we had to get some extra formula. Now, to get formula that doesn't have seed oils and all this, we had to order this stuff from Europe.
Yeah.
It came in, it still had some seed oils.
Yeah.
And we noticed he had some skin breakouts right away as soon as he was on that stuff, right? And I was like, oh, his little digestive system isn't able to process these chemicals that are coming in the unrefined seed oils, even though it's the best formula to get. So I said, let's give him a little bit of masszymes and P3OM, just a little bit in his formula. 48 hours later, completely cleaned up. His skin is glowing and everything. Yeah. And then we found a way to actually make our own with goat's milk and vitamins and minerals. And so we got another formula that we mixed in. And what was interesting, that one that we got, he was a little bit bloated and everything the first little bit, like he would have you could tell he would have stomach pains. Put him on the enzymes and P3OM, just a little quarter in his bottle, quarter of a cap in each one. Fixed everything, 48 hours. And, Everything was great. So I feel really, really grateful that I probably have the youngest math science and Instagram user. No. But actually, I just felt really good that I had a solution. I don't know anything about being a dad. I don't know anything about being a father or anything, but I had something I could offer
I love it.
despite all my failings.
So we're going to talk with Wade further, and we're going to get into some discussions about some of the great successes that Bioptimizers has had, but also some of the failures and some of the ways in which they had to come back from real adversity, like moments they thought the company was over. This is really important, I think, for founders of companies. My friend Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital Management. I mean, now we can look at Zach and say, wow, so successful. Bulwark's done such a good job of stewarding people's money. They're now a solid company with solid footing. But he and his wife, before they founded Bulwark, they watched the market crash for housing, even as Zach had screamed at his bosses. He was a young guy in finance saying, short the housing market. And they wouldn't do it. Zach was new in finance. And in fact, he and his wife lost their home. Now, this was a long time ago. Clearly, they've rebuilt from this. But can I tell you something? That's one of the reasons I was so thrilled to work with Zach. Because I believe people who've never been through cycles like that cannot truly relate to us, that is, normal people. This put in Zach's heart a flame for risk management. So now all these decades later with this under his belt and Bulwark as successful as this, it's still risk management that he wakes up thinking about and goes to sleep thinking about. He accomplishes this through something I think I know it can reduce risk and volatility. That's actively managing every single portfolio. But it's this thing that Zach was saying to his bosses. I see bad waters coming in the housing market. He was trying to show them what he saw. He's a teacher at heart, and he will, for free, with no obligation whatsoever, talk with you. He'll look at your house equity if you have some. He'll look at your money that you've saved, savings accounts, 401ks, 403bs, however you've saved it, independent investments. And he'll tell you if you're set up for retirement. Now, if you are, Zach will be honest. He said this to a friend of mine's dad. You did it. You're set. You know exactly how much money you're going to have every month for the rest of your life. You do not need me. Go forward and prosper. That's what he'll tell you. If, however, your plans are more like wishes, he'll tell you that too. To be honest with you, again, it's free, no obligation, so take advantage of this. Call him at 866-779-RISK. That's 866-779-RISK. Simply ask for a no-obligation consultation, or you can go to the website. That's knowyourriskradio.com, K-N-O-W, knowyourriskradio.com. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24-378. I got to share with you something because I know you'll connect to this. There is a word in the Lakota tongue. It's a single word. I can't pronounce it. I've tried. It's a very difficult language to speak, but it means the joy you feel holding your child for the first time.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There's no words for it. There is no words for it here.
And that word was invented to communicate that, right? And
wow.
It's a sacred word. I wish I could communicate it. I would also tell you this. You can relate to this. You're former, world champ bodybuilder as a natural. I'm in this, I've shared with you this state of trying to put on this muscle. It's working, by the way. Since I've stopped the SEAL Fit training, all the aerobic stuff, I'm actually seeing muscular gain and a little HGH, not a lot, no steroids, but a little HGH and testosterone. I recently got food fatigue. I'd been having potatoes as my carbs, which really worked for me, but I got this food fatigue. So I went to refried beans, and I was having that and chicken instead of fish. And dude, I started to get like freaked out. I was putting on this weight. I'm like on my scale, and I don't have a body composition scale at home, and I didn't get into the gym. What? I'm up from 206 pounds to 213 pounds. This isn't good. Something's really, really wrong. And then I went and I thought about this. I went to some of your literature, and I doubled my Masszymes and I doubled my P3OM, and I started to take some HCl breakthrough. Gone.
Yep.
Right? And the bloating feeling was gone. So obviously I made the switch over in this nutrition. So I don't think my body knew how to unlock that stuff.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time for the microbiome to adjust, especially when you're going to a high plant fiber diet, like a more plant fiber diet.
Oh, interesting.
So if you've been on the traditional side and then you make an adjustment, then you have to give yourself a bit of time. And what's really great about the enzymes in P through M is this breaks down proteins in particular. And that gives you are able to convert, because we don't need protein, we need amino acids. So the extraction process that both your enzymatic levels and your bacteria levels require will allow that conversion. And when you switch foods, there's an adjustment period in the microbiome. And a lot of people just tap out early, but they just don't give themselves enough time to adjust. The same thing when people go to keto or to a carnivore diet. Oftentimes they'll get the runs at first, or they'll get plugged up for a little while, because it's going to take some time for that microbiome to adjust to the new diet. And that's where these type of adjuncts really smooth the transition time. You don't get that bloated, distended stomach, which is just, it's not fat, it's not muscle. It translates as lean body mass on a DEXA scan, but it's not. It's just undigested food, because the transit time of plant-based products is about 2 to 3 times longer than it is for protein. Like if you're eating a steak or something like that. So that's a big transition that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I appreciate you explaining this. So you guys started a business on this. You and your partner, business partner, Matt, you started a business based on this. And I think that I have this theory that everybody has in their mind a great story. A lot of people have, I think any songwriter is capable of a great song. I think that a lot of people are capable of thinking of a great business idea. And life is axiomatic with friends of mine who said, like, I can tell you this one. This one just breaks my heart, Wade. I'm at Microsoft. I got over there. I was advising them on streaming products, and I helped them build the AP video platform and all sorts of just fun things. And I had this idea. I kept calling it You Be the Media. And what if we did Napster of video? And I shared this with a friend of mine who's an MBA. I was thinking about like starting a startup where we'd make it possible for people to upload videos and kind of turn them into, and I didn't do it. And then I turned around, and like 3 years later, Chad Hurley had built YouTube. He sold it for $5 billion. And I just didn't take that step of execution. Chad did. He nailed it. So you guys built Bioptimizers into something that's world-respected. I use, others use. You're now getting into helping people with cognitive growth and reversing aging in that way. What do you think are kind of the top 5 things that are keys to success for people who have that idea from ideation to execution? What do you think those things are?
Yeah, well, I'll just use my own examples, and maybe that translates, maybe it doesn't. So we only have our experience, and I can go from that. What I would say is I had been in the nutritional supplement industry, in the training industry, and so I had a certain level of expertise of what people required and needed. I worked at every level of the supplement and nutrition industry. I had performed at a very high level personally, and I was able to translate that capability to a wide group of other people. So in other words, I had proof of concept on a small scale.
Okay.
That was one thing. The second thing is I partnered with the right person. And, I remember when I got into business with Matt, we had completely different philosophies about things. But what I knew about Matt was he would never quit. Because if you're going to go through business, you are going to, it's not the things that you anticipate or that that are going to be the problematics. It's the things that you don't. And there's a tremendous amount of things that you don't, particularly on either the marketing side or the operational capacity side or the finance side. So you either get really good mentorship to advise you through those things that you don't know. That's one aspect. The other thing, if you're going to partner up with someone that has skills in an area that you don't, and you can share that, and we did have that.
Yeah.
The third thing is, are you tough enough and willing enough to go through the valley of despair without turning the knives on each other or quitting? And every great business I know has probably 3 to 5 times been on the edge of collapse for whatever reason. And it's an operational thing. It's a merchant account thing. It's a distribution thing. It's a mistake on the customer service. It's the things you don't know that blow you out of the business. And when those things hit, do you have the mental and physical fortitude to continue on with your dream when everyone else is telling you to quit. That's a key element. And he had that, and I had that. And I said, we will be successful, right? Because we won't give up. And we didn't. And if we didn't have that, the company was on the ropes at least a half a dozen times in our early years, where we were literally down to, we might have to close the door in 3 weeks or 5 weeks, or I don't know how we're going to do this. But that never say die attitude was able to fight through it. The other thing is, excellence never goes out of style.
Love that. That's great. I'm going to steal that.
So
I love that.
So we from the very get-go, we decided that we were not going to compete for the bottom on price. We're not going to compete on. We were going to be a premium brand. We're going to use premium formulations, premium products. Yes, it would be a premium price, but we knew that price insensitive, top tier person was someone like us, and that we would relate to them, and they wanted the best for themselves, regardless of the price. They just wanted something that actually works. And there's a lot of charlatans in the supplement industry, and I think our industry gets attacked, rightfully so, for all of those charlatans. It's getting better because of social media and information. It's easier to get the bad actors out, but it's also easier for bad actors to get started up and take advantage of trends. So you have to balance that out and play the long game.
I know Wade is a little bit different than me, finer things in life, etc. I'm a simpleton. I eat me some simple foods. I eat about 5 of the same 5 foods over and over and over again. Wade's a vegetarian, different from me in that way. I couldn't be a vegetarian. I did it for 2 years. I turned into a cheesetarian. I should put on like 40, 50 pounds as a vegetarian. I was a bread and cheesetarian. Wade, of course, is a world-class bodybuilder as a vegetarian. I didn't have the discipline for that. So I can tell you this, I don't drink wine. But I have a dear friend who started Bone Frog Cellars. So how did this all work out? Well, I told Tim, yes, I will absolutely help you promote Bone Frog Cellars. Each bottle says God Country Team on it. 10% of proceeds go to support the families of fallen Navy SEALs. And Tim's my dear friend, and I've been thrilled to help him with Bone Frog Coffee. So how does a guy who doesn't drink wine promote wine? I had a tasting party because I told Tim, look, if this stuff flunks, brother, I can't promote it. But I can't tell good wine from bad. So we organized a tasting party at our house. From a 20-year-old, obviously new to wine, who loved it, for a 25-year-old, somewhat new to wine, really enjoyed it, to some friends of ours who might well be a little bit older than me. They travel the world drinking wine. I mean, that's not what they do, but whenever they go to a place, they drink wine, and they travel the world. They loved it, and they're actual wine experts. To people in the mid-range who drink wine occasionally, everybody loved it. So I could call Tim back and say, you're on, let's promote Bone Frog Cellars. And Tim's paying us back with a special that's extraordinary. Through December 31st, get 30% off Bone Frog Cellars wine with Bone Frog code BFWine30 exclamation point. Let's just break that down. Bone Frog Wine 30 exclamation point. BFWine30 exclamation point. You get 30% off on the 218 and 19 caps. Go to bonefrogcellars.com/Todd. That's bonefrogcellars.com/Todd, BFWine30 exclamation point. And by the way, that's in the show notes. You should be able to find that pretty easily.
And then the next piece is never, ever misrepresent your brand, your product, or compromise your values. And, if you go to any of the spiritual texts like the Bible or whatever, they're very clear about keeping your word regardless of what's happening. And there is an energetic power when you are authentic, you're powerful, and you're clear, and you don't compromise your brand, your products, your values, your marketing, any of those elements. And then the final piece that I would say is helpful, and this is one thing that really helped us through all the challenges that we had throughout the years. Never forget that you are in service to humanity. You're not, people go, Wade, you're such a great leader. I'm like, no, I'm not a leader. I'm a steward. I'm a steward of a mission. Someday I'm going to have to go meet my maker. I'm going to die. Everything I have in this life will be gone, no matter what it is. Cars, money, status, it doesn't matter. What it matters is who I become during that process. So when I exit this stage, number one, I'm going into my transition into the next level with a clear consciousness, without any guilt or dynamics or anything like that. So I can stand before the Lord and say, you know what, I'm good. But on the other side of it too, is having a great customer service that is able to directly communicate real people. So everyone thinks about marketing and getting it out. The customer service team that we built at Bioptimizers actually saved Bioptimizers, because when something went wrong, we reached out to our customers. Hey, guess what? We got a real person on the phone, not an AI thing, not an auto-generated thing, not something. And in the early days, the customer service was me. And it was painful. I was getting emails, text message, board messages, phone calls. Half of my friends hated me. My biggest supporters were just like, I go to a social party and like, hey, where's my math signs, man? It's been like an extra, right? But here's the value of that. Because I was front facing on the customer pain points, I was able to take that information to our marketing, to our operations and stuff and say, guess what? I know everything looks really great here on the spreadsheet, but here's what our customers are saying. We're not delivering here. We're not delivering there. And then over time, that has built out to now we're a Six Sigma customer service. We have customers that have been on subscriptions with our company for 20 years.
Huge.
20 years. It's unheard of in this industry. Because at the end of the day, when something went wrong, I'm the person that steps up and says, you know what, that's my bad. I'm going to make it better. And if I can't make it better, I'm going to give you your money back because we did you wrong. And I don't want to be a detriment on the industry. I'm a steward. I am a human cell in the human body throughout all time. I'm just doing my part to support humanity as a singular organism. And sometimes I mess up, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to make it better. And people really respond to when you step up and take extreme ownership, even if it wasn't, my manufacturing spot or a raw didn't come in or a regulatory thing come in. I take ownership of it, yes, because I'm representing the brand, and I talk to that person and say, yep, it's my fault. Here's what happened. I'm going to make it better. I hope you'll give me that opportunity. And thank you for the information so that I can make this better. And people really love and respond to your vulnerability, your humility, and your commitment to making a difference. And I think if young men take their attitude about, I am going to be a man of my word. I am not going to quit when it gets hard. I'm going to take ownership for the flaws within me and my company. You will then start to calibrate to the things that work, and your customers will support you through the lean days. And, now we've got a ginormous company and a huge bunch of people, and it's all around the world, and the brand's going great. But those fundamentals never change. And I'll give you an example. Recently, I had an AI company come in and say, you know what? We can eliminate your customers. Customer service is my biggest department in the company. It's bigger than any department. We have a lot of people in customer service. And they came in and said, we can eliminate your customer service. We can do this automated, generated thing. It's so great. And they showed me the numbers. And here was the thing. They went, yeah, okay, we're going to answer 20%. We're going to deflect. I think it was around 50%. And then 20% are going to kick back that we can't answer. And I said to the computer programs, I'm like, well, what does deflect mean? And they said, well, the person answers that gets the answer to the system. We respond, but it didn't really answer their question. I'm like, so what do you think the customer's experience is when they have a problem and they're getting an auto-generated thing and you've devalued them as a human? What do you think that experience is? And these two programmers who were so proud of the system were looking at each other like I was talking Klingon. They had no answer for this question because they were looking at the precision of the spreadsheet and they forgot the most important person, and that is the person who's taking their hard-earned money and buying on the trust that I'm going to solve their problem or speak to their ambition. And doggone it, I respect every single dollar. I don't see numbers coming into the company from sales. I look every week of how many shipments did we make? Because I know behind every one of those shipments is a person, is a family, is someone who has an expectation of us to deliver, and I want to over deliver on that expectation. And I never forgot that. And I think that's one of the reasons Now we've been self-financed, we've bootstrapped it all the way. We're 3x Inc. 5000 company, 3 times running. And I think it's because of those fundamental principles, and you can apply those on day one in your business. And those things work over time.
Yeah. Funny thing to be talking with Wade about Bioptimizers and the success and the challenges. Sometimes I thought the company was dead. And to talk about a product I take along with the products from Bioptimizers. Bioptimizers has been with me for about 3 years. This is new. And I came across it when I was searching for podcasts on food freedom. So I came across a discussion with a doctor who created a product called Wisdom. His name is Patrick Gentempo. And Dr. Gentempo, was in the Holy Land, and he was traveling about and just experiencing the smells of these great herbs and spices. And as he was doing his reading, he's a follower of Jesus, walking about the Holy Land where Jesus walked. He noticed that so many of the herbs and spices he was smelling are mentioned in the Bible, almost in a sacred sense. And inspiration took him. He decided to create a product to help our immune system, help us with mental clarity, focus, calmness, help us with joint health, help us with inflammation. There are ways to have healthy responses to inflammation. Actually use inflammation in your favor. So this is what he created. It's Wisdom. Now, this is a delicious product that is potent. It's potent because it's made in small batches. It's cold brewed. He infuses this with light waves and sound waves to lock in the potency that you will taste. I love this stuff. My daughter loves it as well. She's a lot younger. She uses it for a different reason, in a different way. She puts it in her coffee because she loves coffee, but she doesn't like the jagged edge. I love the jagged edge, but I still take this 3 or 4 times a day. So go try Wisdom. Go to trywisdomnow.com/Todd. That's trywisdomnow.com/Todd. You're going to get 30% off, 33% off. Pardon me, 33% off. You get a 180-day money-back guarantee and free shipping at trywisdomnow.com/Todd. I want to ask you, before we wrap up today, and I want to just get ahead of this and warn you this, I want you to share when you knew you had the breakout product. I mean, I know when I heard Magnesium Breakthrough and Jen said, hey, do you want to try this? I said, stop, don't tell me what it does. I've heard the brand, send it to me, I'll try it, and I'll determine what it does, which is what I do with products I ingest. So I got it, and I took it before bed. Like, okay, I got it. And every time I take your product, Magnesium Breakthrough, I'm surprised at how warm I feel. It happens every time. I go, this is so extraordinary. I don't expect it. I expect it to be all of a sudden this common thing I'm used to. I never get used to it. So I want to plant that question in a second. For when you knew you had the breakout product, what was it? What went into that? But you mentioned mistakes. And you and I are of an age, I think, where we can talk into the lives of guys who are younger than us, say, 30, 25 to 40, maybe 45, and really speak into lives. And I would offer guys this advice. It's this: what would you tell someone else? And Wade, before we recorded today, I told this story of I made this very egotistical decision to leave Microsoft to go do this startup. It was this idea I had, and these venture capitalists were willing to back me again. And a very senior person, an SVP of HR from Microsoft, came to my office. I'm a stinking community college dropout. Like, only God's power put me in that position. I completely disregarded what he did for me. I never fell on my face in prayer, thanking the Lord Jesus for that. Ever did that. So Matt comes over. He says, and my stuff's packed, Wade. It's on the desk. I mean, everything's in boxes. And Matt comes and sits down. He goes, so I hear you're thinking of leaving. Like, well, my stuff is packed. He goes, okay, before you make this decision, I want you to come and get in the car with me. I want to drive you to Robbie Bach's office, and Robbie wants to hire you to work directly for him. Like, he wants you. Will you have the conversation? So Robbie Bach was the chief Xbox officer, and I had spoken at one of his events. He liked what I said. We visited later, and he put this flag in his mind. And he went and researched what I'd done at Microsoft and asked around, okay, super smart strategist. He gets stuff that people don't get. I said, no. I walked out of there, shook Matt's hand. And if my advice now is, in a situation like that, remove yourself. Stand outside the room. And if I stood outside the room, and I'm a community college dropout, and I'm looking at another community college dropout, and one of the bigwig HR guys is saying, I'm going to take you to one of the top 5 guys at Microsoft who can make you Do you take the meeting? Of course. Me outside the room, talking to idiot, fool, go take the meeting. What are you doing? What's it, another couple of years? You think you're going to get a chance like this again, kid? What are you doing? I didn't do that. And I don't live by regrets because it's a sucker's game. But that's one of my bits of advice I give young guys is, what would someone else tell you? Remove yourself. Be the advice giver. Don't be the subject. What do you think with guys like 40, that age? What do you see some of the common mistakes men are making?
You know, you said it right there. First, always take the conversation, because the conversation itself will always add insights. Number two, ask questions and listen to what they're saying. And I can think of 2 or 3 events in my life where someone older, wiser, and better able to assess my skills and liabilities came to me with a piece of advice. That happened to me when I was 22 years old, and Joe Gold came to me when I was down here in California kicking around in a hostel trying to get it. He said, listen, kid.
Wait. The Joe Gold? Gold's Ship?
Yeah. I came down here when I was 22. I was going to live the bodybuilding California dream. I was training at World's Gym because he was over at World's at that time. I struck up a friendship with him. He took an interest in me. Then one day he sat me down. He said, hey, you got any family down here? I'm like, no. He's like, you got any friends down here? He's like, no. And he's like, you got any money? And I'm like, no. And he's like, listen, kid, you seem like a good guy. You don't need to be here to be a bodybuilding champion. You need to go back to Canada. You need to make some money. And then, continue on your bodybuilding career, because I've seen this city eat a lot of people up. I took his advice. When I started this company with Matt, we saw Dr. O'Brien, who was like at a central casting for Cocoon. Like, this guy was the most amazing, vibrant 70-year-old plus guy that I've ever met in my life. And we said, we got to learn about these enzymes and probiotics he's talking about and do this program, which was $1,500 a month to go all in on that. At that time, we didn't have the money, but we did it for it anyways. And that led to us developing our own product category in that area and everything. It changed our lives. And he also gave me some sage, important advice at a critical point in time. I had another guy that is a distributor for us in Canada. Same thing. I was developing, Matt and I had an off thing. I wanted to do another product. He came in and shared with me some insights that have proven to be true. Historically, young men are mentored by older men, because an older man, if he takes an interest in you as a business person or someone that can do something, he's calibrating everything that you can't see. He's seeing all of the angles that you can't see. You're blinded by high testosterone and ambition, and you think you're good at one thing and you think that's going to be all I need, but you can't be a one-trick pony in life. You gotta round out your skill sets, especially as things develop now. And those key moments, when you've had a mentor, that someone who doesn't have to, takes the time, effort, and energy to give you some insight.
Yeah.
You sit and think and digest that deeply, and have enough humility to think, you know what? Maybe this guy's actually right. And if you can get yourself into one of those mentorship relationships, even if it looks like it's a diversion from your career for, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, your long-term value creation matrix is going to go up exponentially, because you're going to eliminate a lot of the mistakes. You're going to get a clear picture of what your liabilities and what your strengths are. And then you can accentuate that, so you're better prepared to enter into your own business, your own product, your own service. And, everything that I'm successful at was directly related to listening to someone who was older, wiser, and smarter. And every screw up I had was directly related to me not listening to someone who was older and wiser and more experienced.
Yes. If I had simply said to Matt, and I could go with 10,000 other examples, if I had simply said to Matt, hey, can you pardon me for 1 minute? And if I had simply got on the phone and called someone like you, or called the mentor I had at the time who helped me get into the tech business and said, hey, John would have said, hang up with me, go see Robbie and do this. There was another bit of advice I got from a guy senior to me who'd kind of mentored me in my career a little bit. And the mentorship began when I sat with him as an office trying to figure out where I wanted to go in tech. And he said, may I give you an important piece of feedback? I said, yes. He goes, listen closely to what I'm about to tell you. I believe you put more value on what you know than what you don't know.
Mm.
And that was a remarkable statement. And I sat there, and at least this time, God let me respond the right way. I sat there and I said, thank you for your time. He goes, we're not done. I go, there's nothing else you need to say. What you said to me is something I need to respond to. You're right. You just convicted me, man. So may I come back after I consume this and metabolize it mentally? And I did. And he set me off on this path. I never went through a period of my life like that ever again where I exploded into learning Wade. I needed to understand theories and application, and I needed to read the classics. And I went on this just march through my intellect and trying to gain knowledge I didn't have. It was one of the most remarkable things anyone's ever told me. And it led to some of the greatest things that God's allowed me to do in my life. And I wanted to ask you, about breakout products in a breakout moment, but I also, and we touched on this a little bit, product-based. I don't want to I don't want this to be the watchman's holiday where I'm asking you to fix my watch, but I do have some questions about food costs, et cetera. But let me ask you, was there a time where you knew you had the breakout? Like, I know when I had product successes, I knew when we caught the wave the right way. But at Bioptimizers, was there a time you knew you had the breakout product?
3 times.
3 times?
3 times. So when we first started out, we sold an education product called Freaky Big Naturally. It was a bodybuilding course for natural people.
Freaky Big Naturally.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matt and I did it. We had 4 CDs that we recorded, and then we had a big binder. And this was like the early days of Google Ads.
Yeah.
We're selling a course for $300. And he set up we started the company with $100.
Yeah.
That's what we started the company
yeah.
with. And we turned on the marketing, and he set up a cash register sign, like single, that would go when the sale would come in. And we were at his house when we launched. And I still remember that first, it went cha-ching. It was a cha-ching thing.
Yeah.
And then 45 minutes later, it went cha-ching, and then cha-ching, and cha-ching, and then over the weekend, and then we were profitable out of the gate. Like, people were really resonating with the material.
Yeah.
And it started growing, and that was like, wow. And then about a year later, we had tried to enter a deal with that mentor to sell products. It got blocked because of another relationship we had. We went in, found some researchers, some experts, went in, built our own product that we felt was superior, using the right people on Masszymes Inc.
Yep.
We pre-sold that product. You had to buy $500 worth. This is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We had to buy $500 worth, and we weren't going to deliver it for 8 weeks because it took us that long to manufacture it and sell it. So we were pre-selling it or whatever.
Yeah.
And we had all of these customers that, because they felt we were doing so much value on this piece, that they bought in and started selling. And some of those people are still subscribers today.
So cool.
So that was a big thing. Like, all of a sudden we went from just an education company to a product company. And then, then we went through what they call the valley of despair, where you're trying everything to grow that brand. You're losing relevancy. People don't want to see an old guy. We had moved beyond the bodybuilding world, more into fitness and stuff like that. And we ended up rebranding with a friend of ours, Dave Ruel, came in and helped us out. We've gone through all the operational challenges. We've gone through personal ego struggles. We've gone through everything. We relaunched the brand. Reminds me, this is the 4th time. And then we start this new thing called partnerships. And we got a partnership, and one of those partnerships just exploded our business. And then a few years later, we had another one where podcasts were new. We took a bet on a podcast advertising, and that exploded. So I guess it's a little bit more of that. And then when Magnesium came out, when Mag Breakthrough came out, and we brought it out on one of our big podcast partners, and the product sales were good, but what happened, there was this massive flood of incredible testimonials in everything from sleeping, blood sugar regulation, restless leg system, cramping, stress and anxiety. Like, there was just this plethora of things that went away for people from this product. And it's not stopped. This has been going on now for several years. Yeah. And that has opened up so many doors, so many relationships, so many partnerships. It's allowed us to fund and develop a lot of other products that are coming out in the future, to get the kind of talent that you need to run a big brand, and to it's a lot different running a small business to a big business. And that was amazing. And it gave us another, a renaissance, because you go from peak to peak. When you go from peak to peak, you got to go through the valley of despair, right?
Yep.
And there's this rule that it's like 1, 3, 10 in business: 1 million, 3 million, 10 million, 30 million, 100 million, 3. I don't know what it is. It's like a Fibonacci thing or something. The operational capacity and the marketing capabilities have to evolve, and you go through that valley to get to the other peak. And boy, oh boy, you want to have the right people on board, and you want to have tough people on board that can handle the failures along that route,
Yep.
And you're going to fall down that mountain a few times, but if you're focused and you got a great ambition and you got a great mission and you're really connected to service to humanity, that's what gives you the fortitude to get to the other peak.
I love it. I love it. Great reflections on this. And we've just got a few minutes left, Wade. Man, we started this conversation with Wade talking about his baby. And Wade said he was what? He was late to the game. A little bit older than me, Wade. I didn't know that. You're a little bit older. You don't look it. But Wade has had their first baby, he and his wife. And he is going to have this experience of watching this little boy grow up. God bless him. My friend John had the same experience. He had an older son, but they had their second son, Alan, and the strangest thing happened. And I hate to mention this while we're talking about the great news of Wade's baby, but this is what happened. Is doctors were looking at images of Alan in the womb, and they went to John and his wife, and they said, and I'm not kidding, hey, why don't you let us have the baby? Because the baby is not going to ever have a decent life. And they said, no, that's our son. Well, the doctors could see that Alan was going to have a bunch of structural health concerns, and he does. That's real. They didn't know that he was going to be dramatically impacted by autism, and that's come to pass. Alan's effectively nonverbal, but this doesn't mean he's not smart. In fact, he's a brilliant kid who invents soaps. It's one thing to invent a soap and describe the fragrance from an important time in your childhood memory. He's done that. It's another thing to make it. His dad, John, is a digital marketing expert. He's created some of the most successful digital marketing campaigns in history, but he did not make soap. So they went on a search. And back in the Midwest, they found a family. They have 3 generations of soap-making expertise. And John went and said, I want to start a soap company so my son has a place to work, but I'm going to put my son's name on this, so it has to be excellent soap. The family met Alan. They heard the story. They said, we're in. So the soap is made in America. It's all natural, and it has no chemicals. Oh, and by the way, no slave labor from China. So why not make the change? Actually go to a company that employs Alan and Ian and Amy. It's not just Alan anymore. That's the mission. Employ people that the world would have rather stored in a box. Go to allensoaps.com/Todd. Get 10% off all their products there. That's allensoaps.com/Todd. So I've incidentally, on the magnesium breakthrough, I got to mention this. I was at, once a week, I've told you this before, I allow myself to go eat pizza. I always go in, it's a 2 to 3 workout day. I go in, 4,000 calories in the hole. So I eat whatever I want. And there's a young girl who works there, and I've gotten to know her a little bit about her life. And I was taking Bioptimizer stuff. I had HCl, P3OM before I eat the pizza, and Masszymes and magnesium breakthrough for going home. She saw the magnesium breakthrough. She goes, oh my gosh, I love that. She's 27. 27, yeah. And not necessarily, I mean, she is aware of the podcast. I don't know that she listens to it. I never asked her, but that was a huge one for me. I'm 57. This young girl's 27. She knows the product. That communicated a lot to me. So let me ask this question, that a ton of people are, my wife said to me the other day, Todd, I don't think you know how expensive food is. It's like, hey, buy this and buy that, please. If you're going to the grocery store, please pick this up. And she said, I really don't think you know how expensive food is. I'm like, oh, no, I'm aware. She goes, no, you're not. No, you're not. Let me show you. And got out the Amex. I'm looking, wow. So, I mean, food costs are going up, and I don't think I see them slowing down. So I wanted to ask you about smart supplementation in a couple of minutes. You feel free to use all the vitamins you want. Maybe there's other things you want to throw in there. But how can you take the tactics of smart supplementation so you get more nutrition? And how can you do this with kids? You're doing it with your newborn. How can you do this with kids so you make sure it's kind of a way of that smart stretching the dollar, but without that disgusting hamburger helper?
I'll give two examples I think that are really critical. You can take a genetics test and a SpectraCell test. The genetics test is going to reveal to people what challenges you're going to have in absorbing foods, which maybe dietary strategy is going to be effective. It's going to cost you a couple $100, but it's going to give you key insights into you, the person, so you don't get caught in somebody else's solution that's not right for your genetics. Two, the SpectraCell test is a special nutritional test that you can look at that will see if the product you're taking is actually getting into your cells. It's better than a blood. Yeah. So those two tests are going to, number one, which things are probably going to be likely your challenges and where you want to focus your supplementation.
Okay.
And this, or even your dietary strategy. And the other part is, if you're taking a product, you can see, is that product actually working? Is it actually getting to your cells? So those two elements, it's going to cost you a little bit on the front side, but it's going to save you thousands of dollars on the backside because you're going to customize your supplementation. And then going to the food side of things, this is actually an opportunity. It's disguised as adversity. I'm not insensitive to the cost of food, right? I remember when I was scraping up every dime I had to get enough food and had almost no money for supplements or anything. And you're right, it's crazy. But guess what? Dietary discipline and batch food production is the key out of it. Guess what? As expensive as food is, rice, beans, oats, chickpeas, low cost.
This is my vegetarian friend.
The foods that are actually really good for you are less expensive, and you can generally buy them in bulk, and they stay valuable. So you can look at, hey, you know what? I don't need the $8.50 crackers. I don't need the $15 piece of cheese. You know what I mean? And then, you know, if you're a meat eater, for example, you need to take part in your local community and find out your local farmers. Get on a farm situation where you're preemptively buying your stuff in bulk. They get a delivery. They can do that with vegetables and stuff like that. So number one, you support local communities. You're going to have a higher nutritional value.
Yep.
You're going to get better pricing, and you're going to plan out your diet so you're not eating the Me Too quick fix junk food that has empty calories, that steals your dreams and steals your health. That's the key out of it. So it's still expensive. I'm not discounting that, but you want to look at not expense. You always want to look at value, and your value as physically healthy and functional is far more valuable than cheaping out on your food. Cut off the other things in your life, get good food, make sure it's right for you, and then pick the specific supplements that are going to augment that which you can't get in your nutrition. And that's why magnesium is such a big product, because we just can't get enough in our dietary, no matter what you're doing, whatever diet you're following.
I love it. It's brilliant advice. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for the long-term partnership. And man, I'm going to be praying for the family. I loved hearing you tell the story of your son. And you picked the perfect
Thank you so much.
And yeah, gosh, where did that energy and size come from? Appreciate you, my friend. God go with you.
Same.
Yeah. This is the Todd Herman Show. Please go be well, be strong, be kind, and please make every effort to walk in the light of Christ.